if I can help you. So today I wanted to just bring in our guest as well. So Dr. Helen Torley. Dr. Torley is the president and CEO of Halozyme. Halozyme is an innovative and disruptive solutions company in new therapeutic options that could significantly improve the patient experience by challenging how treatments are delivered. So with that, welcome to the podcast.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So would you mind just telling the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yes, as you heard, my name is Helen Torley. I'm the CEO of Halozyme, and I've been in this role for now approaching 10 years, which seems like it's been a very fast time to get to 10 years. I trained as a physician in Scotland, and I'm actually a rheumatologist by training, and I actually joined the industry over 30 years ago to lead the clinical development program that I actually was a clinical trialist on, and we're developing a new treatment for rheumatoid arthritis at that time. From then, I've spent my time gaining different experiences in the pharmaceutical industry. I quickly moved from the clinical development side to medical affairs because I found there was a need and it was a passion of mine to be able to identify or help the doctors know how, when, and where to use the new products we were introducing. And often we're doing that through phase 3B or phase 4 studies today. Then I thought it would be fun to be having more input into the overall strategy of how drugs are developed. In fact, do some of that work a little bit earlier than waiting for phase 3 before. And so I began my journey through inline marketing with a focus in the US, global marketing roles. I had sales leadership roles, became a general manager leading a couple of business units in a large biotech, and became a chief commercial officer. And ultimately, after that, became a CEO. Really passionate about what our industry does for patients. And, in my time in the industry, I've seen metrics like the overall survival for patients with multiple myeloma go from a median of 3 years to now it's 11 or 12 years. It's just amazing. Just this week, one of our partners, Argenx, announced data with their great drug VYVGART, Hytrula, that reduces the risk of relapse of patients with chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy by 61%. If any of you have had family members, as I have had, impacted by these diseases, you know what important work we do. And that's really where I get my passion. On a personal level, I've throughout my career been supported by my wonderful husband, two wonderful daughters who are having amazing impact in their career and their lives as well.
And what do your daughters do? Just out of curiosity, are they following in your footsteps?
No, they didn't. One works in private equity with a focus on sustainability and investing. So climate change is actually her passion. And the other one works as fixed income trading. So both more on the finance side of things, but just terrific, terrific girls.
Really interesting to hear. It's always interesting to me as well because I've heard a lot of people recently talk about the younger generation caring much more about our environment and kind of what's coming as well, and to hear that your daughter's working in that space as well is so important.
Oh, it's from the time at middle school. Well, she'd tell my husband he had to put the tap water off running when he was shaving. She started very young.
Oh my. Well, so could you tell us a little bit about Halozyme and what it is that you work on there?
Yes, so Halozyme is, as you said at the start, we're biotech. We're based in San Diego, but we also have sites now also in Ewing and in Minnetonka, plus a great field team as well. And we basically have two platforms, drug delivery platforms that we license to leading companies to allow them to be able to transform their drugs that today need to be given in multi-hour intravenous infusions, often chemotherapy drugs, multiple sclerosis drug, that type of thing, and allow them to be transformed into injections that can be given in just 3 to 5 minutes as a sub-Q. I usually use the example of Janssen's Darzalex. I think everybody has heard of a wonderfully successful drug for multiple myeloma. Many patients, the infusion takes 4 to 6 hours, and that's just the treatment phase. So it's an entire day in an infusion suite that might not be close to home, and obviously has an impact for the patient, but also their caregiver and family. Instead, with our technology, what's called Darzalex Faspro was approved in 2020, and it's given in just 3 to 5 minutes as a subcutaneous injection. It has been incredibly important for patients to reduce that burden of illness. And interestingly, we also found we reduced the rate of infusion-related reactions, so a clinical benefit there as well. So, but we've got 12 partners. We've got 6 approved products now. We have another 15 in development, and so it's been very exciting for us to be expanding that and having this alternate offering for patients to receive a much shorter, simpler treatment. And we also last year bought a new drug delivery platform that is an autoinjector platform. It's for small volume drugs, 1 or 2.25 ml, but we are innovating and actually developing an autoinjector that can deliver 10 mLs in well under 1 minute. And so that is our business model. We license these technologies to leading companies. We receive royalties in return, and those royalties enables us to be a profitable company, but also use that to, in the future, acquire additional platforms so we continue with this mission to really reduce the burden of treatment for patients. That's where we want to be disruptors, and we want to really change the paradigm.
That's amazing. And so whenever a company starts to work with you, do they typically come with the drug and then they say, how can you help us, or how does that interaction normally work?
Yeah, very often that is it. The company will have an idea in mind that they focus on doing something for the patient, or focus on competitive differentiation for the product. Kind of, and often both of those in mind. And they will come to us and ask, will their product be compatible with what we call our enhanced technology, and talk about what might be feasible and possible in terms of the volume you can inject, the speed at which you can inject it, what's going to be the impact. I will say we also have a very proactive outreach to companies. Sometimes that reducing that burden with sub-Q delivery is not top of mind for a company. And so frequently we reach out and talk to them about the great examples we have for success with the 6 approved products, and talk about what we believe we could do for their product. And that's how we get new partnerships, and that's how we help advance more products into the clinic. So a bit of a mixture of both of those, and now we're very excited to be doing that for our small volume and our high volume autoinjectors as well. And the high volume autoinjector is really going to be differentiated. It wouldn't be possible without ENHANZE to be able to deliver it so quickly. Because what ENHANZE does is it dissolves something that's under your skin called hyaluronan. Basically, it gives your skin some of the structure, but it also is what causes really high back pressure if you try to inject more than 1.5 mLs under the skin. When we co-formulate our partner products with ENHANZE, it's injected at the same time, but it works virtually instantaneously to degrade and create channels under the skin, because it takes that hyaluronan temporarily away. The drug gets spread out over a broader area, gets exposed to the lymphatics, gets absorbed, and then the skin returns to normal over the next 24 hours. And so you can inject pretty large volumes. Most of our partners are 10 to 15 mLs, but we do have one partner product which is anything from 300 to 600 mLs in a single setting. And for that particular drug, which is for patients with primary immune deficiency, it has allowed patients with that lifelong condition, instead of having to go into the hospital every few weeks or every month for a lengthy IV infusion that can be associated with some side effects, they can do that at home in an hour in the comfort of their own bedroom, and just infuse it. And again, only once a month. Just again, that ability to let the patients be free of their disease for longer periods of time.
That's amazing. Yeah, and to not have to go into a facility as well to receive that treatment does sound amazing. In terms of the, I guess whenever somebody comes to you, what is the timeline from the moment that they come to you till you might have something where you're using the drug with your Halozyme technology?
It's actually pretty fast. I mean, usually the step of being able to take their product and mix it with ours and see is it compatible is 2 weeks. And we don't have to customize our platform either. It really is highly compatible with virtually everything we've tested. And so the timeline is usually just agreeing on what the collaboration agreement will be, and then doing that test to make sure it's compatible. And I will say from the time of signing an agreement, we are now about 3 months to go from that to be in the clinic with the first in human testing. That's obviously because we've had a lot of experience with regulatory authorities around the world. We have the IND package for our work ready. The partner needs to complete their phase 1 design and their IND package and submit that. But that really is the rate limiter these days, because we can go into phase 1 testing just with an on-site mixing of their drug with our technology. And so just 3 months to get in and get that testing. And then the partners are usually doing the formulation work to create the commercial co-formulation. But we've over the years been able to innovate and advance that so that it is a very straightforward process to go from getting the agreement and moving into the clinic and getting these new options for patients.
And are there, I guess, are there things that are good candidates, and then there are, other drugs that are not good candidates that we should also mention?
We've mostly been focused on monoclonal antibodies, and you can expand that to bispecifics, oligopeptides. Those types of areas are just our sweet spot. We have several partners who are now developing small molecules. That's a more novel thing for us, but I'll give an example. ViiV, who are a subsidiary of GSK dedicated to stamping out HIV. And they have a very innovative plan to be able to try to move to a once every 4 month or once every 6 month injection for patients with HIV. They're doing that with our technology because our technology allows them to inject subcutaneously a larger volume, which provides that treatment coverage or the prevention coverage for a much longer period of time. So that's a small molecule example, and we've got several others. So monoclonal antibodies, small molecules. I would say the only area that we've got more limited applicability would be antibody drug conjugates, and that really is going to depend on what the linker is, and is the linker intrinsically cytotoxic. Clearly, you wouldn't want to be putting that in the subcutaneous space, but there are a very wide array of drugs. I mentioned we have about 20 approved or in clinical testing, but many, many more with the potential to be being transformed to more provide that alternate option for patients who may prefer sub-Q.
And when a company wants to get started with you, how would they reach out? The best way would be to go to your website.
Yeah, if you go to our website, there's a business development link there. I think that is the easiest, and my team are always very enthusiastic to talk to new potential partners. A lot of good information on the website as well about the technology, and some nice videos just to understand the mechanism of action too.
Yeah, and I know that. So on the folks that are watching on LinkedIn, the Halozyme site is all already connected, with this post. But in addition to that, we'll have all of your other links available whenever the audio version comes out this weekend. So all of that will be available for anybody that happens to listen to the audio version as well.
Super.
So in terms of the your your career, it seems like you've done a lot of different things, especially the commercial space, and then coming along to eventually lead a company. What's some of the greatest leadership advice that you've ever received?
Yeah, I think for me, and I will say, as I think about it for the company, it was reading the book by Pat Lencioni, The Five Dysfunctions of a Team. That I remember was maybe 25 years ago. I first read the book, and it really struck me that if you want to have exceptional performance, that's exactly how the organization and the team needs to collaborate. I've used it with many of my teams going through launches, BLA filings. If you can build that, that pyramid of trust and ability to debate and commitment, accountability, and the focus on the collective results, your team can do anything. I have to say, we brought it to Halozyme. We've done in about 2017, one of our employee surveys, and one of the areas that needed the most attention was cross-functional collaboration. And in our industry, you have got to be able to collaborate amazingly well. And so we were fortunate to be able to get Pat Lencioni to come and talk to the company. And if you've watched his videos, he is the most energizing, fun, thought-provoking speaker you could have. And really, since that time, he set it up wonderfully. We spent an entire day doing exercises, thinking about it, considering all of our personality styles, because I think that goes very nicely with it. Say your personality style in your normal workday, but your personality style under stress. We really have gone from strength to strength as a company, where everybody would now say our collaboration is incredibly high. New employees coming in always say to me, like, this is the friendliest pace. Everyone's trying to help me. I can't believe it. And so I think that a model like that everybody in the company embraces and is held accountable to, was the biggest aha. And I do remember the meeting where that was first introduced to me, and not everybody embraced it at that time. But so I believe passionately in that, and we've created a very strong culture here because the team really do embrace it and reap the benefits from it.
Well, that's excellent. And how big is your team today? How big is the company?
We're 400 people. We have about 140 in the field, and the rest are split between San Diego, Ewing, and Minnetonka.
Wow. I mean, that's a nice size small company for sure.
Enough that you know everybody. Enough that I like to think there is limited red tape. We're in an open plan office, particularly in our San Diego office, and so everybody sees each other. There's just no time for bureaucracy. You can get quick decisions when you need to. We obviously have got appropriate for our size and speed governance, but what I love about it is the ability to just get a bunch of smart people in the room and be able to debate things and make decisions, and that's what happens when you're at this size.
Yeah. Yeah. And I find it interesting always as well. So there are plenty of companies, and I recently was working with one particular company that was very creative in the pharma space, but they were about 10,000 people, right? So I mean they were not small anymore, but they brought along a lot of their small company culture. I felt like, and you could just feel it kind of. There was this comfortable tension that was always there, right? So they had to have a certain level of governance, but they also, kept that culture as well, as large as they'd gotten. And it's just amazing to me whenever companies can do that, because I don't think it's a very easy thing to do. The leaders at some level have to comfortably trust a lot, to let individuals still continue to keep that small company culture.
I could not agree more. And actually, it was one of the reasons I decided to become a CEO. I'd obviously done various different roles and leadership roles, and I'd been in some great companies. But as they grew, exactly what you say happened. We lost the culture. The fun went out of it. We forgot to say thank you to everybody who did all the work. And so a part of my passion in saying, I want to try this. Let's see if we can get business success while creating a great culture where people feel recognized, rewarded, and developed. And that really is the mission we've been on for the last 10 years as a company. And I admire a company that can grow to 10,000 and keep that. We're working hard at growing from 250 to 400. We did an acquisition last year, so we're working through all of that. So it's so important. The
Yeah.
culture is what matters in a company to keep people motivated, engaged, and to stay with you and to go the extra mile. So we spend a lot of time talking about that and working to excel there.
Well, especially whenever you have two, I mean, whenever you talk about acquisitions, the first thing that pops into my mind is you actually have two cultures then. So you have two cultures that you're trying to, like, at some level mesh, right? So trying to bring those together is not an easy task. So yeah, give you a lot of credit for that as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
So there are three questions that I like to ask every guest. What inspires you?
For me, what really inspires me and what I love is when members of my team or anyone in the organization comes to me with great ideas that I know I could never have thought of myself. It just is so exciting to just see the brilliance of groups thinking or even an individual. But I will say most often it's that wonderful power of putting diverse teams together and see what they come up with. I love when they just reinvent something, a process, or they come up with a new way to recognize people that will be really motivating and get to the heart of it. So I'm inspired by the team who are just inventing, creative, and building the culture themselves. And we have this wonderful group called the Care Squad. At Halozyme, they used to be called the Culture Club. I liked that name, but the Care Squad, who are really employee ambassadors, who are volunteers, who have decided it's their job to build and grow the culture. And so they do many wonderful things, hosting events. Kept the company going during COVID when we were all remote with these lovely little random acts of kindness. We did scavenger hunts remotely. I mean, we just did so many very fun things, but just letting people remember we're connected. We need to work collaboratively. We need to have fun. We need to say thank you. And so that type of spontaneity and the breadth of that culture or Care Squad group and what they've been able to do to the company, that is inspiring as well. Because I wouldn't have thought of that. They think of all these ideas. I'm like, oh, thank you. I think that's terrific. So that for any CEO, I think that is just brilliant when all of this great stuff happens and you are just not part of it and you know you could never have thought about it as well.
Yeah, I think it's so important as well for, I mean, kind of to bring us back to where we started, with talking about, your daughter who's focusing, in much more in terms of, the overall environmental change as well. My thinking is that having people that look at problems from all different aspects and also consider, other things that a company needs to represent for them to feel kind of, part of that company, is important as well. And that's what I hear in your answer is that just this kind of, further reach that your organization is having, not just, focusing on patients and the technology that you provide, but also sort of more holistically, how do you become a company that the people that are inside of it, fully support as well?
I'll just give you another example. You just triggered another thought, John.
Sure.
About 2 weeks ago, the leader of our care squad had put together all of our sites an opportunity for everybody to do a morning of or afternoon of volunteering. We touched, I think, about 16 different organizations. 70% all of the employees participated, and just the impact we had in terms of houses built and meals served and bicycles constructed. It was incredible, and it's also been a great mainstay of the employees at Halozyme. Is they are very generous in recognizing not everybody is as fortunate as we are, and so over the years we've done many great community events to support underprivileged, the homeless, people. Health disparities is another area we're incredibly passionate about. We're now focused very much in St. Jude's in that whole area of health disparities. But 70% participation and incredible enthusiasm. I think that was inspiring.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. What concerns you?
Yeah, a similar theme to many CEOs, I think, which is the impact COVID has had on how people work together, but with a real focus on creativity, problem solving, and progress in people development. It definitely has taken a step back, and we took every effort we could to keep that going with remote. but frankly, there is nothing like getting into a room with a group of people and getting to your whiteboard, and everybody is writing in different color and talking over each other, and finally at the end of it, you get something fantastic. And that wasn't possible. And I think, it's obvious from all the literature and news articles, there is a bit of a resistance for people coming back to the office. We are at the office 3 days a week now. We started with two, but we're at 3 days a week, with the team being remote the other two. I felt that was a necessary change to be able to build the business development, but to develop people. If you're not seeing mentors, being challenged, it just is not the same. The quality of the feedback is not as much. And so over the years, we're not going to find people are ready to take those next steps and fulfill those senior roles as they would have in the past. And so I think that focus on the people development, and team creativity and problem solving is something we need to recreate, and frankly catch up to what's been lost for employees who probably don't appreciate just how much they lost in their onboarding experience to the company versus other people.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because one of the teams that I'm working with as well is very focused on change management as they implement large scale enterprise systems. And from a change management perspective, it's really hard to truly gauge where somebody is whenever you can't spend enough time with them to really understand kind of their personal positioning. And, so there are certain things that we're doing in terms of implementing systems and things like that, where we're watching body language, virtually. We're trying to listen to the tone of voice and things like that. But I can tell you, whenever we get together and we're face to face, it's a lot easier to sort of feel the resistance that somebody has for something, I feel like virtually you can completely miss the point.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. And then we're back. We've got an open plan office in a couple of our offices. One still isn't, and you can just feel more energy, and ideas percolating. So yeah, it's we've got to recover from that. We've got to embrace it. We've got to embrace it. That is just a fact. I appreciate people's desire and enjoyment of flexibility, but in the long term, we got to find the right balance.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, we are all social beings at the end of the day. And this is coming from an introvert as well. So,
Well, same here, 100%. I mean, I am way over on the introvert scale. People say an adjusted introvert, but I found I was not as creative or as energetic, without the interactions with the organization. I just did, before I came on here, I just did a walk around. It's like, it's so good to see people. It's energizing.
absolutely. Last question. What excites you?
Yeah, I think I'll come back to our technology and what we're doing about disruptive solutions for patients. I saw your head nodding when I say if you've had family members who have to go to infusion suites or have to travel an hour and a half, 2 hours to get to the academic hospital. What SubQ is offering is the ability for patients, potentially, depending on the drug, to be treated closer to home, in maybe even in their doctor's office, or even in their home with some of the drugs we work on. And when we do market research with leading companies, the patient has become much more important in terms of the patient experience. People are thinking about it, the heads of CMC, the heads of drug delivery, the heads of devices. The patient is at the center at the start of development, as the first target product profile is being done. That wasn't the way when I was working more in that field maybe 20, 30 years ago. And so I think this recognition that consumerization of medicine, with patients wanting more control and expecting options, is just going to be a great focus for all companies, really seeking to improve how care is delivered, with hopefully benefits to long-term adherence, benefits to long-term outcomes. And that's, after all, what everybody in the business is focusing on. And so I love that trend is everywhere.
Yeah, I have a nephew right now, just to bring that last statement even more personal. I have a nephew who has brain cancer right now, and for his chemo treatments, they're having to travel 2 hours. He lives in Texas. They have to travel 2 hours to get his treatments, and they have to do it multiple times, as well. And so his wife was trying to plan out, how does this work with, my job, and, trying to take care of my husband, and, do this whole back and forth, kind of thing as well. And it's just, I mean, it's very disruptive for their life to try and save his life. And it's, one of those things where you just really, sort of, I personally started to connect a little bit more even with that story, because of, what they're having to go through and plan as a family as well. So, yeah.
No, I'm just sorry to hear that. We've got better and better therapies all the time, but again, our mission is to just keep bringing those improvements and outcomes from everybody. But I wish him luck and keep him in my
Yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, Dr. Helen Torley, I greatly appreciate you being here and for sharing the message of what you're working on at Halozyme. Thanks a lot for being on the Life Science Success Podcast.
That's great. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.